My name is Merv, and this is Walt. And my firm is Hometown 401k, and what we are is a 401k management firm. And Walt works with a firm called Wella, and what they do is help individuals manage their wealth. And together, we have partnered to create a financial wellness program that we can deliver in the workplace. And we wanted to really deal with all types of employees. Everybody has financial concerns, and I'm glad to see it's a younger crowd here today. It's the earlier you get started being serious about your finances, the greater of an impact that you will have. And so, our vision when we put this together was to create an impactful educational program that we could deliver easily and deliver in the workplace. Normally the way I start talking about that and I think about things are what we refer to as the three economies. I can't take credit for inventing that. In fact, if you remember last election and you remember when Herman Cain was running and he's on the radio today, he's really the person that came up with this, and it got me thinking about it. How important this topic is of three economies, but also how could we deliver this effectively into a workplace and help folks like all of us really kind of understand what's important, what they have control over, what they don't have control over. So the first thing we talk about is the global economy. So the global economy really is, the United States interaction with other countries around the world. How the Federal Reserve does certain things with interest rates to manage the money supply. And quite frankly, those of us sitting in this room today have very little control or even very little impact on the global economy. And so I try not to get too worked up over things that really we have no control over. And then when you think about the regional economy, that's Atlanta and that's Georgia. And as a large corporation that has an impact, jobs, et cetera, your firm actually does have some level of impact on the regional economy here. And that's important. So collectively, as a group, you do have some level of impact regionally. But most importantly, you have a lot of control and a lot of impact on your personal economy. And so you want to think about that. Sometimes we think about, people don't always think about their personal cash flow or their family essentially as a business. And if you think about the monetary part of that, think about, a business is in place to ultimately deliver a good product and to make a profit. And your family should think about money the same way, that you are ultimately there to provide for your family, to provide an education for your kids, and ultimately save for a really nice retirement. And so you've got to think about cash flow, the amount of money coming in and the amount of money going out. And so for a lot of folks, they just sort of start making money and they start spending money, and then they happen to save whatever's left over. And that's kind of what we find in this category. And I always ask people to really think about how you deal with money and how you deal with savings. And most people fall into this category. They earn it, then they spend it, and then whatever's left over at the end of the month, they might save a little bit of it. You've got a great 401k plan here. You've got a generous employer match, so that comes out before you get paid. So there's a big benefit to that, and that's one of the reasons why we like being in the 401k business, is ultimately we can help people save for retirement before they have the opportunity to spend money. But you really should pay yourself first. And if you are familiar with Clark Howard or Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman, you'll hear that phrase bandied about quite a bit. Pay yourself first. And the way you do that is ultimately you earn what you earn and put money aside towards your future, whether it's your future, your family's future, your kids, your retirement. But pay yourself first and then ultimately spend what's left over and change that equation around. So it's not always easy to do, but it is your personal economy. It is the area of your finances where you retain the most control. And I think that's really important. So you're thinking about education, you're thinking about retirement, you're thinking about vacation, you're thinking about churches and charity, all those things that you want to support. And one of the big inhibitors of the ability to manage your cash flow is how you perceive debt and how you take on debt. And it's a really important topic. And so with that, I'm going to let Walt talk much more in detail of what's good debt and what is bad debt and how you can ultimately manage that to your advantage.
Thank you, Merv. Hello, everybody. Walt Corey. To start off, wellness is financial wellness. It's just like anything from eating healthy, going to the gym, anything that you feel like is wellness. It's creating good behaviors inside of on a daily basis, monthly basis, to make sure you're getting to where you want to be. And in today's age, it's kind of a new age thinking of making sure that my whole life is doing the right thing in the sense of healthy life, but also healthy finances. And one of the biggest things that is hitting the entire country is debt. No matter if it's personal, credit card, government, corporate, doesn't matter. Debt is a major issue, and it's because of financial education that individuals and governments don't completely understand how it works and what it is and how it affects people on a daily basis. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about debt. Good debt versus bad debt. Changing the way you think about money. That's the goal of this discussion and the goal of who GetWella is. How the rich think about money. They think about it very differently. And this is a great quote. Not sure who said it, but it's a great quote. Rich people use debt to leverage investments and grow cash flow. Poor people use debt to buy things to make rich people richer. They have a totally different way of looking at debt and a totally different way of what we look at debt and what the wealthy look at debt. They look at ways to put a lot of individuals into debt so they make more interest and more money. So they're the ones being paid interest where we don't understand a lot of those basic knowledge. So we're the one paying a bill every month and paying them interest, and they're making money on things that they shouldn't be. But with that thought in mind and understanding, because of that thought process of not understanding what you're paying out on interest or what you're paying out on debt, well, there's a lot of people making a lot of money on people because they don't understand it. So today's plan of action, I want to talk a little bit about, so you guys know a little bit about me and where I come from. Good debt versus bad debt, affordable versus unaffordable debt, a plan of action if you have bad debt to pay it off, and then conclusions and questions. So first, I started with Merrill Lynch right out of school. Merrill Lynch hired me on as a financial advisor. I went through their program as a financial advisor, helping people with their retirement planning, their cash flow, making sure that we're hitting their goals, short-term, long-term basis, if it's education, retirement, business planning, 401ks. We tried to help people in the way of a planning basis. But Merrill Lynch didn't have that same type of feeling. They didn't believe a little bit what I did, and I'm not changing Merrill Lynch. So I was on the search for somebody that was into that, was into helping individuals, more of an education basis of still managing money and still doing the same type of planning, but just a different approach of how to help people. So what is good debt? Good debt is it acquires an appreciating asset. So that could be a home, a business, something that will go up in value, any type of real estate property. And the main thing to always remember, two things, is does it generate cash flow? So if you are buying a house and you rent it out to somebody, you're generating cash flow from that. So even though you go on Zillow, it might be going up and down, the value of that home might be going up and down, you're still renting it out to somebody and somebody's still paying you income. So you're creating cash flow on an asset, not buying a new car or buying a new ring that you can't create cash flow on unless you're doing Uber. But other than that, it's hard to create cash flow on a lot of things that you purchase. So you want to get in the mindset of when you purchase something, assets versus liabilities. And I'll give Robert Kiyosaki out of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He talks a lot about this, of the idea of what assets are and what liabilities are, and making sure you understand what creates value and what doesn't. Examples: business loan, real estate property, student loan debt. So those are things that business loan debt, maybe buy new manufacturing to increase your production or more efficient. Real estate property, renting something out. Student loan debt, you want to make sure, now this could be bad, but you want to make sure that if you do go back to school, you're increasing your salary down the road. If you stay the same or only $5,000, $10,000 more, but you put yourself into $20,000, $30,000 in debt, then that's not a good business decision. That's not a good payoff. So you'd be making a bad business decision. An example, so something very simple to understand. Buy a home for $250,000. We put down payment of 20%, which is $50,000. Mortgage balance is now $200,000 at a fixed rate of 4% over a 30-year time period. The PITI, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, is about $1,200 a month. If you would rent that out for $200, this is a good example of what good debt is. You rent that out for $2,000, you're now creating positive cash flow of $800, and you're also possible appreciation down the road if you want to resell this 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Now you're creating cash flow on a yearly basis, monthly basis as well as potentially selling it at a higher asset. This is just like buying a high quality stock. It's the same type of thinking. You buy a high quality stock that pays you a dividend every single quarter. So now you're making 3, 4, 5%, depending on the company. And then down the road, you also get appreciation out of it, and you can resell that as well. What is bad debt? So bad debt is purchasing items that are disposable goods or services, something that you don't create cash flow, something that doesn't appreciate in value, something that goes down in value over time. A good example, a new car right off the lot. Immediately loses 20, 30, 40% of the value. Other things, credit card, unless it's something in a business, not most debt, credit card debt, you're paying somebody else interest, making somebody else really rich, 12, 15, 20+% in interest. Well, just $10,000 debt of 20% interest, you're paying somebody else $2,000 a year in interest. So now you really owe in 1 year $12,000. So vacation, you never want to borrow to go on vacation because it's not creating an asset. Unaffordable mortgage, auto loans, 401k, you want to keep those assets tax deferred, you want to keep that money in there. And unaffordable student loans, money that you don't get salary later down the road. Bad debt, credit card debt purchases. So this is an example. So anybody, we all do this stuff, TV, anything at Nordstrom's, anything shopping. We go out and we make a purchase on a credit card, and just for example, $100. And we buy a shirt, or we buy shoes. And for a year, we didn't save enough money in the bank, or we don't make enough money to be able to pay that off. So now, a year later, that balance is still $100, but because of 12% interest rate on the credit card, now you owe the credit card company $112. The resale value on that shoes or on that shirt that you bought is $20, $30, maybe $50 max if you're lucky. Well, that's an extremely fast appreciating asset. So when you're paying somebody else $112, it only cost you $100, but now it's only a resale value of much, much less, and that's a bad asset to buy in an appreciation. Affordable versus unaffordable. So this is a lot of the same, but an affordable asset acquires an appreciating asset. It doesn't leave the financial strain, is paid off by retirement, it doesn't impact retirement savings. So when something's an affordable debt, and I'll show you an example after this, you want to make sure that inside of your total budget, it's something that you can fit inside and it doesn't affect the rest of your lifestyle. If you're purchasing a car, for example, and you buy a car that's outside, now you might get the loan for it, but if you're buying that car that isn't inside of your budget, it starts affecting your food, or it starts affecting your retirement savings, it starts affecting the rest of your family's basic expenses you need or savings, then that's something that turns into unaffordable debt, something that you can't purchase because now it's affecting the rest of your long-term goals and then immediate of being able to live on what you need. And that's also unaffordable debt. Does it hurt your credit score? Does it delay your retirement date? So these are things today, and which is great, Murph said, everybody here is young. I'm telling you, the earlier you save, the more time you have in compound interest. Einstein said the most powerful tool in this universe is compound interest, because the longer you are able to 4, 5, 6, 7% of compound interest over time with yield, dividends coming in, whatever it is, reinvesting, that is how people become really wealthy over a long period of time. And you don't have to make a lot of money to become very wealthy. We have clients that are maintenance individuals, but they're retired with over $1 million in assets, and somebody asks, how the heck did that happen? It's because over a 35, 40-year time period, they were just saving just the small amounts, which is far less than everybody in this room could do, but just saving those small amounts over a 30, 40-year time period, that's how it works for a lot of people. Cash flow, so just a quick example, you make $50,000, this is a cash flow planning of taxes, savings, and the rest of your life. We know that government's going to take your mortgage, they're going to take income taxes, they're going to take Social Security tax, everything else, sales tax that goes into this. We take 30%, $15,000 out of taxes. Savings, to be able to create the income that you need in retirement by 65, 62, 70, in that time period, you're going to need to save at least 20% of your goal. And this will keep you on track. You may be able to save more or less, but this will keep you on track. And this is a good, safe number to go with if you're saving that over a long period of time, this will put you in the right situation. Life, the rest of this, and if you're able to budget yourself underneath this number, then that'll create the place that you want to be. And trying to live off of what you can of $25,000. Mortgage affordable. When you're buying a mortgage, it's not about what the bank is going to give you a mortgage, what they deem to be okay for you to pay. It's something that what you want to do. Because of the last slide that we just looked at, if you're paying something too high in a mortgage every month, that's going to take away from your savings bucket that's going to be able to save for you. And you keep up with that 20%, you may be able to retire a lot sooner than you think. So anything under 25% of your gross income, so assuming that you're making $100,000 or $50,000, you want to keep your yearly mortgage, and that could be as a household, under 25%. And if you're able to do that, then you're putting yourself in the situation that's going to help you with the rest of the goals. Anything over 30 is I'll just tell you, it's a bad idea, because then it's eating into the rest of your life. Example, so John makes $70,000 a year. Same example from before, $250,000 mortgage, 4.25% interest rate. The monthly payments are $1,230. It has 70% yearly salary, 21% of John's income. That's a good affordable, because he's still able to use the rest of the money towards his life and savings. An unaffordable mortgage would be, same example, but he took a 30-year rate and the mortgage is now $400. Well, he wanted that big home. He feels better in the big home, and he's able to brag to his friends, and he feels better because he's trying to keep up with the Joneses. Well, the problem is it's now 34% of his income, and now he doesn't have anything else to be able to enjoy his life, to be able to save, because a lot of individuals will put all of their money into their home, but now they're cash poor. And to be a healthy business or a healthy household, you want to be cash rich, increasing your cash flow, because that's what a good business is. So if you have credit card debt, or if you have debt that you deem is not good debt, bad debt that we just talked about, you want to put a plan together of it laying out exactly what everything that you own inside of it. If it's credit card, house, high interest rate house, maybe old credit card, old student loans, see if you can roll it over into something lower or consolidate it. You want to first build out a budget, know exactly where your fixed expenses are, variable expenses are, what you have to spend on a monthly basis. Lower your fixed income, see if there's ways to lower the fixed income going out, that's all the cash flow that's going out to other people. Make a list of the debts again, lay out exactly what you owe, what the interest rates are, how far out, what the minimum payments are. Then look and see again if you can transfer those balances or consolidate those debts, what you can do. Once you do that, there's two ways, schools of thought that we believe are the best. One of them we like even more, and that's snowball or avalanche method. And the methods to pay down the debt, so the snowball method, that is by taking, when you lay out all of your debts, you have a debt of $500, $700, $1,000, $1,500. The snowball method is you start at the top of the hill and you know how aggravating it is. A lot of people get overwhelmed with it because it's too much. And it's too much for them to handle, it's too much for them to think about. But if you lay it out where it's the $500, the $700, the $1,000, the $1,500 in debt, and you start with the smallest amount, and you get rid of that small amount, and you go, oh, I can cross that one off. And then you go to the next one, and you can cross that one off. Well, even though you still have a lot left down here, you're still creating the snowball effect of this confidence that, oh, I can get the next one. I can get the next one. It's just like going, it's anything in your life, you start with the simple stuff just to get a victory and get your confidence up. And then you start to move down the road, and you pay the rest of them off. The other one is the avalanche, where you start off with the highest interest rate. So if an interest rate is 12%, no matter what the balance is, you pay that one off first because you're paying somebody else 12% interest, which is obviously way too high. Or 20% interest, you pay the highest off first no matter the balance. And then from there down, whatever is 12%, 6%, 5%, you pay them off that way. So who is Wella? The GetWella.com that we went to it previously, we were created by a firm called Capital Investment Advisors because we wanted, again, to help people on education, creating behavior for themselves, so it's easier for them to be able to create their own behavior and do the right things on a daily basis, monthly basis. In a sense, we're a digital advisor. So what the robo-advisors are are individuals that you can just put at the absolute lowest cost, and you put your money in, and then you have an algorithm do it for you. We didn't believe in that because a lot of individuals need more than just the investments. They need someone to talk about their plan. They need to talk about their investments. They need to talk about debt or whatever else it may be, and be able to think in a bigger picture instead of just throwing your money to somebody else. So what our founders did was we created something that took from the traditional advisor world and also what the robo-advisor world, so we're able to lower our costs but still deliver a service that individuals need. We work with our main individuals that we really specialize and work with. There's a lot of people. You have $1 million, $750,000 plus. You really get good service. You'll get good service. People usually pay attention to you. The Merrill Lynches of the world will open the door, and they'll give you the right type of investments and asset allocation, and they'll meet you on a quarterly basis, 6 months. But if you have somebody under that, it's very uncommon to get any attention. It's very uncommon that they'll usually sell you an annuity. They'll usually sell you a shares upload front. You pay somebody 4 or 5% the mutual fund. We don't believe in that, which is why we're a fee-based only firm. We don't sell commission products, anything. We're not allowed to. We're only allowed to charge a flat percentage, which is 1%, which is no matter how much you have, it's a flat 1% to help you with your investments with an asset allocation that a lot of the individuals that are the $750 $1 million above get. But we do that at a lower cost and use internet and the technology to be able to keep that at an affordable cost for everybody. So that's it for me today. I appreciate, thank you very much for your time. Merv?
A couple of points I'd like to make. To kind of put a bow on the debt piece, one of the things that we talk about all the time, and I think is relevant to most people, particularly as you get a little bit older, the thing that I say quite often is that lack of debt gives you freedom of choice. And if you think about that in your future, you have a lot more ability to do things that you want to do if you don't have that burden of debt around you. It is a stressor. I mean, money's enough of a stressor, but when you have debt on top of that, it creates a lot of stress in your life. It creates stress in the workplace. It creates stress outside of the workplace. And so just think of those terms. It's just think about your future. And as I mentioned earlier, we at Hometown 401k, we manage 401k plans. And one of the reasons we chose that particular lot in life is because we really felt like, we're passionate about education, we're passionate about financial education, and we wanted to be able to deliver that essentially to more people at the same time. And the way you do that is through, group meetings like this. And so you have a bigger audience essentially when you're working with 401k plans. And we're so committed to education. I want to introduce Caitlin, who's sitting right here trying to be really quiet and out of the way. But one of the things that she did for us that we deliver is a forward-looking 24-month educational calendar. And that is something that we deliver on a regular basis to give our clients and give people that are interested in the education piece on finance the ability to know for the next 24 months what topical educational pieces that they're going to get, mostly related to retirement. But that's the biggest piece that most people are interested in. But as it relates to the 401k, I kind of wanted to make 2 points that might benefit each of you in your own 401k. And we ask this without raising anybody's hands. I'm sure maybe somebody in the room has a loan. Walt was talking about 401k loans, and we didn't really go into much detail about why you might not want to take a loan. But it's a really important point, and what we found is that nobody ever really talks to you about it. And so a lot of people will just look at that, that's access to their money. And granted, if you've got a financial crisis, it's there for a reason, because your employer wants you to be able to access that money in case of emergency. But many folks take a loan out to buy a car, they take a loan out to go on vacation, as Walt was talking about. And they take a loan out just because they feel like they need some money for some reason that's not necessarily a hardship or an emergency. And I want to share with you a reason that you may not be aware of and why you should not do that. And the reason for that is the majority of people have their 401k balance. They put their money in on a pre-tax basis. And so that you do not pay taxes today, and you postpone that for 20 or 30 or even 40 years. What happens is when you take a loan out, you take that money out, you've taken out presumably pre-tax dollars, and you've spent it on something outside your 401k. And when you do that, you sign an amortization schedule up to 5 years that you have to pay that money back through payroll contributions. And so when you pay that money back through payroll contributions, now you've got two sets of money going into your 401k. Your normal 401k pre-tax contribution, and then you have your loan repayment. Your loan repayment is no longer a pre-tax contribution. When you pay back a 401k loan, you're paying that back with money that you have after taxes. So essentially, you've taken a pre-tax contribution, paid it back with after-tax dollars, which means you're paying tax on the loan repayment the year that you earn it. Fast forward 20 years, what happens when you get to retirement and you pull that money out of your 401k? You get taxed again. And nobody really is aware of that. You actually are creating your own double taxation situation by taking a loan out of your 401k, paying it back. You're going to get taxed again. You get taxed when you pay the loan back. You get taxed when you take the money out in retirement. So if I could leave you with one piece of advice as it relates to 401k loans, please make sure that it's an emergency, that is a true financial hardship, before you take money out of your 401k. So we talked about, the compounding piece, and before we kind of open it up, if y'all have any questions, the thing that I really, really want y'all to think about, the thing that I think will made a difference in me is I'm old enough to have kids, I've got grown kids, and just a quick show of hands, how many of y'all have children? Okay, so those of you, the thing that happens is when you have children, you really understand how fast time goes by. Before you have children, you kind of think, oh, I got all the time in the world, I can do this later, I'm young. When you have kids, there is a representative every single day that tells you you're getting older, okay? And so ultimately what happens is you really do realize that time flies. Those kids, you're changing their diapers one day and you're sending them off to preschool the next, and then they're toddlers the next, and then they don't talk to you for 5 years. And then they go to college, and ultimately they get married, and then all of a sudden you kind of have a relationship again. Once they get married and they see what it took to raise them in the first place, all of a sudden, you don't look so bad as a parent. But the thing about that is that 20 years goes by fast, and anybody with children will tell you that 20 years goes by fast. And what I want you to do is truly take just 10 seconds right now, just 10 seconds, and think about yourself 20 years from now. Maybe you look like one of your parents. Maybe your parents are, hopefully they're alive and you can think about their situation. But think about you 20 years from now. If that you 20 years from now was to give you some advice today, what would that advice be? Most of the time it's going to be spend less, save more, and spend some more time with your family.